Hello, Missouri Democrats. It is great to be here. You know, it's always fun to be here among friends, to see my former colleague, Judge Bringer now. We served together in the legislature. Congratulations. With so many of our leaders here. You know, I started coming up here a few years back. Bob is laughing at me here. But in 1978, I came up here for the first time as a young Democrat and got hooked, and Cameron became the state president of the Young Democrats. Met my wife, Deborah, at a Young Democrat convention in Missouri. So the Democratic Party has been good to me and my family. But history we saw this past year for our party. And not particularly great history. But I'm here to really put a nail in the coffin and say 2010 is history. So let's turn the page. 2010 certainly was the worst election for Democrats in my lifetime. And we saw friends like Ike Skelton and so many other tremendous public servants really swept out of office in ways that just didn't make a whole lot of sense. But it really was a perfect storm for Republicans. We had a Democratic president who had inherited the worst economy in a generation. It was the midterm presidency that traditionally sees a fall off in voters. And we also saw the biggest flood of secret, undisclosed money in politics since the Watergate era. That was the election of 2012. Well, we need to move on. But before we do, I want to say a special thank you to people who withstood that and stood through that tough election. I want everybody in this room that was a candidate for election in 2010 to stand up. Come on, everybody in the room. If you're a candidate in 2010, these are some tough Democrats. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes is of Teddy Roosevelt. And I'm going to tell you why I'm quoting a Republican a little bit later. But he said, "The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does not actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, great devotions, who spends himself at a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." So thank you to those of you that have been in that ring. So why am I quoting a Republican president? Well, because he had the good sense to leave the Republican Party. And I think that's going to get very popular in the next few months and years. And a lot of things we're hearing today, I think people have gotten a great wake-up call with some of the extreme things that we're hearing from the other party. And I think they're going to get some buyer's remorse. We've all seen the headlines, we've all seen today's polls. More people are questioning and leaving the Republican Party. And history shows that people really have little tolerance for extreme and overreaching Republicans. In fact, at one of our Democratic caucus meetings early this year, they gave us a graph that showed us the composition of Congress over the last 100 years. And Claire, you'll especially appreciate this. But 4 times in the last 100 years, there has been these high peaks in Republican majorities in the Congress. And every single time, in the election 2 years later, there's been a dramatic fall off, and they've lost on average 48 seats in the next election. Guess how many seats? Guess how many seats we need to win the majority back in the House? 25. So we've already seen this overreaching begin in Washington. And I think people are going to wise up very fast. We've seen Republicans in Congress do a slash and burn budget that economists have estimated is going to cost 700,000 jobs and slow our economic growth by 1.5% to 2%. We've seen them go after programs from helping homeless veterans to health care. We've seen them go after education funding, Head Start, math and science education, college scholarships, all on the chopping block. And you have to wonder, is anyone safe from the Republican budget knife? Well, actually, yes. Guess who? Some favorites of theirs. Big oil companies. We could save $40 billion in taxpayer money over the next 5 years by stop giving subsidies to the big oil companies who don't need it, who've made record profits. How about we start there with some budget cuts? And we all heard the Republicans run and criticize earmarks. Our senator's been pretty good about that as well. Remember the famous or infamous earmark, the Alaskan Bridge to Nowhere. We had a vote this past week to stop funding the Bridge to Nowhere in Alaska to save over $100 million. Every single Republican in the House voted to keep that crazy earmark spending in our budget. We saw one of the new Republicans show up in Congress for the freshman orientation. You probably saw this story. He was a medical doctor. He defeated a Democratic incumbent in Maryland. He ran against health care. He was there at the orientation for new members of Congress, got up in front of all of them and demanded to know when was he going to get his health care, his government health care, and why did he have to wait a month to get it? What was he going to do with his gap in coverage? So there's some full-blown hypocrisy going on among some of the new members in Congress on the other side of the aisle. You know, I'm really proud of what we've done as Democrats. I think that going forward, we need to really pull together and plan how we can move forward in 2012. And we've seen the other example of overreaching that I think is going to be very much a part of this election going forward, what we've seen going on in Wisconsin. I think, again, another example of Republicans overreaching and forgetting about some important history in this country. One important anniversary is coming up that I think is going to remind us all the importance of that basic right to organize in this country. Later this month, it's going to be the 100-year anniversary of the infamous Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire in New York City. In about 20 minutes, in a factory there, 146 people, mostly women, some as young as 15 years old, were dead. Many were unable to escape because managers had a practice of locking the doors, a step they took in order to prevent workers from supposedly stealing materials. So they were locked in and burned to death. After that incident, grew the movement for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, fighting for better conditions and better wages. Most importantly, they demonstrated that when people work together and come together, they can win. We've got to be sure that we have that same spirit to come together, to understand that organizing, that speaking up for basic rights is part of who we are as Democrats. We should be proud of that. So we've got to get back to those roots going forward. We've got to take advantage of what I think is going to be a way to come back to sanity in our government. And we're going to have a great ticket in 2012 to do just that. I'm going to be pleased to be working to help Claire continue to work and fight for us in the U.S. Senate. And I know that she is going to continue to be the kind of Democrat we can all be proud of. You know, Harry Truman once said, when people are given a choice between a Republican and a Democrat who acts like a Republican, voters will choose the Republican every time. So we need Democrats like Claire that are going to stand up and fight for us in a very tough environment in Washington. The other great leader in our state up for election in 2012 is going to be our Governor Jay Nixon. I'm proud to call him a friend, proud that he was part of the ticket in 1992 that swept Democrats into this state and began a turnaround in politics in this state after a long, long dry spell for Democrats. You know, some governors have made a mess out of things in their state with their budgets, trying to oppose policies that are bitterly divisive. Well, Governor Nixon has worked to bring people to the table, to move people forward. Our party and all Missourians are counting on you now more than ever to be a great doer and to stop those who take our state backwards. He's working hard to get our economy moving again, and that's why we need to work hard for the next 18 months to be sure he can continue the work he's doing as our governor. Missouri Democrats, please give a warm, warm welcome to our friend, our Governor, Jay Nixon.